Welcome to the Harley Carnes podcast.
Hello again. Welcome back. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Harley Carnes. Today we're talking about writing. That is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, as you might imagine. I can tell you for sure, though, the chances are that you care about words. We all do. Telling a story, writing a piece for any reason, landing a message with clarity and impact. I have no doubt that you care about words. I mean, think about it. If someone calls you an asshole, you care about that. If she tells you or he tells you, I love you, you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, those words matter. If you tell someone, I will never let you down, those words better matter, right? So we care about words, for sure. We all do. So it makes sense that we should care about how we use them, especially when if you write them down, someone else can read them again and again and again and pick them apart or praise them. I was on the air for a long, long time at some of the great radio stations in the country. That's good fortune more than talent. I got to tell you, lots of talented people don't get offered jobs in New York and Chicago, Dallas, Fort Worth. Most are not lucky like that. Most folks are not lucky enough to learn how to fly airplanes, for that matter, or helicopters, or to become an instructor teaching others how to do it. From bush flying to aerobatics, flying upside down, my life has been sprinkled with good luck. Now, I'd like to take all the credit for that, but I can't. Some of the stories will probably come up along the way in these podcasts, but I have had angels from heaven dash down and perch on my shoulder at just the right moment during a lot of moments. Sometimes it's trying not to catch the train that's trying to catch you. You know that scene in the kids' coming-of-age movie, Stand By Me, that has them all running for everything they're worth along railroad tracks, hoping not to be turned into hamburger? Well, I did that with a couple of cousins in Georgia. We had always wanted to do it. There was a tall wooden railroad trestle, and it was calling our names, you know. So we climbed up it, and we were walking along the tracks, looking down between the ties at the bushes and the rocks far below. When sure enough, here come the train. Here come the train. We ran and ran. And it's hard to run between the rails on railroad ties that are not surrounded by dirt and gravel. It'd be really easy to trip and fall. The train was blowing its horn. It was getting closer and closer. And toward the end, where the trestle and the rails reach solid ground and the hill drops away steeply to the bottom of the hill below, fortunately for us, there were huge bushes of honeysuckle growing there. We literally dove into those bushes with the train going by right behind us, the gust of air that it shoved out of its way blowing over us as we dropped down into the bushes. I dove to the left. Steve and Clell dove to the right. We couldn't hear ourselves think for a few moments. We didn't know if the others were alive. But honeysuckle never smelled so sweet. No, we weren't hurt. We weren't even scratched a little bit. Well, maybe a little. But that's it. Like I said, angels on our shoulders. See, now, that's a story. I could spend a few more pages on it, what we were thinking or not thinking, what else we were up to that night, and it'd make a whale of a short story or a chapter in a book. I could change the names to protect the guilty and so forth. Well, here's my point. When you write something, the words belong to you. They are a piece of you, and we all need to respect them. Now, broadcasting is a funny business. It is very, as in intensely, personal, because there is a connection made through the ether that is literally one-to-one. There may be many, many thousands of people listening, but with each one of them, there's a connection, and it's an agreement, unspoken but very real. The listener gives the gift of their very precious time to the broadcaster. The broadcaster better give something honest and real, hopefully useful, informative, and or entertaining in return. Now, I won a bunch of awards through the years. Edward R. Murrow Awards, those are the Oscars of the radio news business, Headliner Awards, AP, and other awards. And every time, in my humble opinion, the key was not in my dulcet tones. It was because of the writing. Now, great actors can make a phone book sound interesting with their voices and their talents. Imagine listening to Helen Mirren read the phone book, or Charlton Heston, De Niro, Stallone. Most of us working reporters, though, need to write well or we might as well go home. So here's the point. It is said that everyone has a novel in them. Maybe not a good one, but a story nonetheless that is important to the person who lived the story. I would say that everyone has a story, if not a novel, probably a number of really good stories to tell. The story is conceived in your mind, given birth through the keyboard, used to be on paper, maybe with a pen or pencil. So, if you want to write your story, maybe I can offer a thought or two that might help. Whether you're writing a book, a novel, an article, a blog, a report, maybe telling a story aloud on a podcast like this one, there's one thing you've got to get right. The first line, the hook. The first line is your handshake. That's really what we're talking about today. It's the door that opens. It's the flare in the sky that says, hey, look here, this is worth your time. It doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't need fireworks or a drum roll. But it does need something, a spark, a question, a mystery, a mood. It's the place where the readers make the decision, will I keep going? Am I in good hands? Hey, when I told you that story about running on the trestle with the train fast approaching, the opening line was about angels dashing down from heaven to perch on our shoulders. I knew you weren't going anywhere. Stories like that are just too much fun. So what makes a first line work? A great first line might do one or more things like this. Introduces a mood, a character, a place, or a setting, a conflict. It often poses a question, which is to say, hints at something yet to come, and it embodies emotion of some kind, curiosity, anxiety, trepidation, impending doom, or impending joy. Here are a couple of famous first lines. We'll borrow them from literature. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Charles Dickens. Call me Ishmael. Herman Melville in Moby Dick. So what do first lines do? They provoke curiosity. They set the table. They make us lean in. Heck, you know from the title of Tale of Two Cities that contrast is the name of the game in ways that you can and can't quite imagine. And that's the first line. First lines in journalism, well, we call that the lead. It's the part that carries the weight of the story and often determines whether the rest is ever read or whether the listener hangs around for the rest of the story. Over the years, I've written thousands of lead lines. During a given day, I'd write 40 to 50 short stories, 8 to 10 stories per newscast, 5 or 6 shows every day. Sometimes it was about a war, sometimes a wildfire, sometimes a family's small miracle or huge heartbreak. And every time it started the same way, with a line that told you why it matters, or that made your ears perk up. Speaking of that, years ago, I worked with a guy in Fort Worth, Texas, named Jim Baker. He was a DJ on WBAP, 50,000 watts, one of the biggest and most influential country music stations in the nation. And I asked him one day, I said, Jim, how do you do it? He was a storyteller. He could he'd tell you a story about being on the road. He'd tell you a story about someone who is in a band. It might be a country music star, or she might be. I mean, he knew stories about Loretta and Merle and all the other greats, and because he knew them. And I asked him one day, I said, how do you do it? How do you get people to stay with you the way you do? And he said, son, you got to grab them by the ears and make them pay attention. And we talked about what he meant by that. Now, this podcast is not going to be all about radio or how to write the next great American novel. I'm starting with thoughts like these because writing is the constant throughout everything that I've done so far. I figure there may be some young folks with broadcasting stars in their eyes, radio or TV, who might glean something useful from these couple of episodes. By the way, an old friend of mine, Charlie Steiner, play-by-play voice of the Los Angeles Dodgers, who had the unenviable job of succeeding Vin Scully, but who does a really great job of it, told me when he made the move from radio to ESPN TV a long, long time ago, The secret to his rapid rise to the top was his sterling talent as a writer. He didn't say sterling. I'm saying that because he's a hell of a writer, which makes him a hell of a play-by-play guy. He's full of great words, and they're all instantly available to him. The great play-by-play sports announcers are all like that. They are a breed apart. They have an ability to reach hearts and minds with their words and to do it really quickly. Michael Kay thinks about the big moments that might come way before they do. He's a New York Yankees TV announcer, of course, and he's ready when it happens. You can't write down a great line and then find it and deliver it as the winning homer is headed for the bleachers. It's got to be in your head. You've got to know what you're going to say, or at least have thought something about it. The words are rattling around in there, ready when you need them. Both of those guys, and many others, can write their butts off. For broadcast news, it's not loud or flashy, but it has to be real. It's rained for 3 days and many people have no home. That's not a bad first line. Or, it's rained for 3 days and hundreds of homes are now full of floodwater. A little bit better, right? Both are good. Number 2 is a little stronger. Now, in fiction, here's an example of an opening line. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Stephen King wrote that. You immediately want to know what's happening. Why was a gunslinger following Johnny Cash? That's a joke. Why was a gunslinger following the guy? What was the guy running from? Did they know each other? Yeah, there are a lot of questions that come up just from that one simple little sentence. In one of my own novels, No Gates with God, it starts with, I died. I didn't realize it at the time. After all, I had never been dead before, and it was disconcerting. Now, hopefully, there's an interesting story to come. You can just feel that. After the first line is where the writer's style begins to emerge. If you're Lee Child writing the Jack Reacher series, you specialize in short sentences, which creates lots of pace and energy in addition to the juggernaut of action that is Reacher. If you're at the other end of the literary scale, James Lee Burke, for example, you write a spectacle of elegant and image-evoking prose. You bask in description of vibrant places, particularly of the Deep South, and the vast magnificence of Montana, and you bathe the reader in a deeper understanding of place than the people who populate it, both now and in the past. You're not going to sit down and write like either one of those glowing dipoles. It's just not likely. So here are a few tips for the first line. Tips that are simple, though not necessarily easy. Keep it clear, keep it honest, and let it breathe. Raise the right questions. You are the creator. You know which questions are right. And slow down half a beat. Your voice, whether it is spoken or written, matters. So is the breath between the words. The breath is part of the story. There's an old saying. The first line is not the only line that matters, but it is the only line that must matter. So, next week we're going to spend a little time together, again, talking about writing, and this is going to be the only times we do this, but it's going to be about the last lines of the story, or of the novel, the short story, or the letter to your sweetheart. What, you don't write letters? Don't you think it's time? Come on. Thank you for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. We'll be doing interviews soon with a long line of great people who do all kinds of amazing things, who have lived and are living amazing lives. Not talking about writers and authors necessarily. I'm talking about all kinds of people. Heck, I spent decades talking to people in 100 different industries. Brilliant, interesting people with great stories to tell. It'll be an awful lot of fun to dig deeper and learn more. So please subscribe, punch that like or follow button. Whatever your app wants, please do it. It'll help keep all of us busy, and it'll make sure you are notified about upcoming podcasts and special events coming up. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you. I'm Harley Carnes. We'll see you next week.